This is the fourth battle between AggonyDuck and Balor of Agartha. AggonyDuck is commanding Rome and Balor of Agartha is commanding Galatia. And if you haven't grown tired of seeing these players and these factions playing on Armavir yet, I'm sure you're going to be. Galatia and Rome saw a lot of use in this tournament, together with Tylis and the Boyai. For AggonyDuck we have Rome, and he has again a super wide formation. On the flanks he has 6 legionaries, 2 equites. In the center he has 4 veteran legionaries, his general and a unit of levies. On the flanks he has 4 units of hastati and 2 socii equites. And the socii equites are decidedly better than the equites because of their increased mass against infantry. If they can catch infantry moving unbraced, they can knock them down to a significant degree because they are heavy, while the equites are only medium. For Balor's Galatia, we have 3 Galatian swords, 6 Galatian legionaries, 2 Celtic slingers of all things, noble horse, 2 mercenary Cappadocians. I don't think we can see his entire army just yet. I think he had 2 mercenary Cappadocians in this battle. Duck is going to move up on the hill with his cavalry and keep moving his lines towards the right to face off against Balor. And because Balor is the defender in this battle, he is going to be able to just stand here and wait until Duck moves up to face him. Duck needs once again to be careful about his fatigue levels, and now he's going to start walking his units. So when he has a large distance to cover, it's going to be very useful to not expend too much stamina before he makes it to the lines of Galatia here, because if these units are fresh while his units are winded or even very tired, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to win that battle, because the Roman infantry relies on its high melee attack to get a lot of hits in. They have low weapon damage but a very very high melee attack. That means that they're going to hit enemy units a lot, but each hit isn't going to do much damage, and they can't rely on the devastating charges that these barbarian swords can. And yet he did indeed have 2 mercenary Cappadocians. He did indeed have 3 more Galatian swords. Very typical Galatian build. Galatia doesn't have a lot of options, so you know you're going to come up against 12 swords most likely. A nice and wide formation with a strong center for Balor. And he picked the noble horse general with battle rhythm and second wind. Duck's commander is Duck's general, or legatus, is a commander general, so he'll be able to inspire and raise banner to keep the hastati in the fight for a longer period of time. Moving up his forces in a very methodical manner. Here we have some nice Galatian raiders coming out of the woods. Big surprise there for Duck. Managing to take out some equites, not losing any men themselves. Very nicely done by Balor. And these levies need to be very careful, because one charge from the Galatian raiders are going to absolutely destroy the levies. And the levies aren't very important in this battle, but it would be nice to see them get some kills against these Galatian raiders. They aren't going to be able to do it if they are unsupported like this. Getting some kills against the Galatian raiders, so that's nice. Only 3 kills. They miss with most of their javelins against the Galatian raiders down here. The Galatian raiders are able to bait javelins very well due to their high speed. So we're seeing sort of a slow surround starting to happen from Duck here. The Galatian raiders being super annoying, charging into the levies, and that's it for the levy unit. The charge bonus of 39 is going to destroy skirmishers on the charge. And these Galatian raiders getting nice kills on the equites. Pulling out, but they've got sort of pulled back in by the Equites. Now the Galatian Raiders need to get out of there to not lose too many men. They've already lost 15. The Equites should stop chasing the Galatian Raiders, and now they are. Over here, the Balor mismicroed, so the Social Equites were able to get a downhill charge on the mercenary Cappadocians. They were able to get a downhill charge on the Galatian swords. And this unit of Galatian swords being attacked in the rear and losing decisively, losing 40 men, is going to mean that it starts routing. Very nicely done by Duck in tying down these important units of mercenary Cappadocians, in blobbing up the Galatian swords, and essentially making the Galatian swords have to fight uphill. So it's just screening against the Galatian legionaries here, so they won't be able to rush up to support. And this will enable him to engage the Galatian lines piecemeal, and that is devastating for Galatia. Galatia has already lost this unit of Galatian swords. It might come back. Another charge coming in against the Galatian swords while the veteran legionaries are pouring in. And when they are able to get into the fight, these two units are off the field. So losing mercenary Cappadocians very unnecessarily, then getting downhill charged by all of these very strong Roman troops is going to destroy the Galatian swords super quickly. And Panda Warrior is creating a nice formation here that's going to be able to engage the Galatian army at will. He's just keeping his Hastati over here in reserve while engaging with his stronger troops, charging in against the Celtic slingers, doing a lot of damage to them. And in this battle, it just looks like Duck was able to overwhelm the weak flanks of Galatia. Out micro Balor. Balor has already lost a lot of Cappadocians. The Socii Equites are going to go down now, but they did a very important job in blowing up the lines. Hastati coming in against the flanks of Galatian legionaries. They should do well there, keeping them in reserve while engaging the Galatian legionaries with his own legionaries. Another unit of Equites is going down. Shield wall is being popped for all the Galatian legionaries. Let's just see if the shield wall bugs out. Some of them turn their backs, because that can happen sometimes. It doesn't look like it. The Hastati are charging in against the Galatian legionaries, getting a lot of Pila into them, and robbing the Galatian legionaries of their charge bonus by them being in a shield wall like this and fighting downhill. Is going to mean that even Hastati are going to do very well against Galatian legionaries. The entire left flank of Galatia is down, and now Roman units are going to start pouring into the center, where the Galatian legionaries are holding their own against the legionaries of Rome. They are the stronger units. Galatian raiders coming in against the rear of the legionaries. The unit is losing decisively, being charged in the rear, and that could mean that Rome is losing the center. But even though Rome is losing the center, Rome is winning on both flanks here against the Galatian swords, and the Galatian raiders should start dropping quickly. But that rear charge against the legionaries and against the Equites was super important, because the noble horse are now going to be able to move in, do a lot of damage to the legionaries. And Galatia was actually able to win on the right flank, but there are so many Roman units pouring in. Mercenary Cappadocians getting surrounded by Hastati and veteran legionaries. This is not looking good for Galatia at all. Galatian units are wavering across the battlefield. When the mercenary Cappadocians go down without having contributed to the battle in any meaningful way, the Galatian legionaries in the center are going to break. The Celtic slingers are not going to be able to do much. And although Rome is still holding out on the flanks here against these Galatian swords, but overall there is too much Rome left on the field for Galatia to be able to deal with. And keep in mind that Panda had to win this battle in order to stay in the tournament, because he was down 2-0 after 2 games. He won the 3rd game, and it looks like he's going to be able to defeat Galatia in devastating fashion in this, the 4th game. So we're going to move to the tiebreaker. The score is 2-2 again between Duck and Balor. The Galatian legionaries are just being surrounded on all sides and summarily destroyed by the massive amounts of Roman infantry still left on the field. Very nicely done by AggonyDuck here. The Legatus is charging in, trying to tie down the noble horse. There isn't anything that Galatia can do to stop this from happening. Noble horse losing decisively, getting charged in the rear. The army is losing. general died, and that is it for Galatia. A devastating defeat of Rome versus Galatia. The Legatus gets in, gets a lot of kills on the skirmishers. The noble horse is wavering, army loses, and that's it. Impressive display by AggonyDuck here. The kills weren't that far off from each other, but if you look at the kills from the Galatian swords, they were very effectively neutralized. The Galatian legionaries were just swamped under a tide of Roman infantry. AggonyDuck brought... he only brought 14 infantry units in this battle against the 12 infantry units of Galatia. But he was able to do some very important attacks on the Galatian swords on the flanks, because you can see how dangerous the Galatian swords can be if they're able to do their thing. The legionaries and the Galatian swords need to get charges, so if they get robbed of their charges... But the Galatian swords didn't outperform the Hastati, and the Hastati are much cheaper than the Galatian swords. So using Hastati not as meat shields, but as supporting infantry, picking your engagements, can also be super effective. So we're moving into the tiebreaker, the 5th battle between AggonyDuck and Balor of Agartha. Strength and honor.